at our last regular city council meeting of the month of October. Welcome everybody tonight to tonight's Milpitas City Council meeting. And for folks joining us here at Milpitas City Hall or on Facebook live stream or youtube.com, thanks for tuning in. And we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And we'll go to our city clerk, Suzanne Gazetta, for the roll call.
Councilmember Chua. Here. Councilmember Dominguez. Councilmember Fan. Vice Mayor Montano. Mayor Tran.
Here, thank you very much. Next up is the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Very good. Moving on here to the next thing on the agenda. Thanks, folks, for being here with us. I see the regulars in the chamber. For folks tuning in at home, welcome back. And for folks that maybe this is your first council meeting, which is very good, you can please join us on our meeting agenda here in the chamber. I think there's some printouts in the back there. Or if you're at home, you can search via Google or whatever search engine you have. City of Milpitas, or you know what, you can search Milpitas City Council meeting agenda, and that should take you to our city website where you can find our agenda for this evening of October the 18th. Next up on the agenda is the invocation. Tonight's invocation is presented by Council Member Evelyn Chua.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. We are honored and blessed to have with us Brother Marnukap of the INC, Iglesia ni Cristo, Church of Christ, the congregation. He is the leader of the congregation here in Milpitas. Thank you so much for coming.
Profound gratitude and thanks unto thee, the life, the strength that we have, as well as you have allowed us to be here within the confines of this city council chamber. Thank you. Thank you for you have given us this privilege to witness this city council meeting. And as our leaders also are with us, we pray for the knowledge as well as the wisdom that they need, that they may be able to implement your laws as well as the laws of the land with all equality and fairness. It is our faith to have heard our prayers. We ask these with love, Father, in the name of our Lord and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And that's it for the invocations. Next up is presentations. And I'll ask our entire city council to join me here at the podium We have a couple of presentations. Thank you. What a fun night here in Milpitas. Great to see all the familiar faces. Milpitas family in the building. The first proclamation we have will be for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And then the second out of the two will be for Diwali. But first, let me go to the Breast Cancer Awareness Month proclamation. National Breast Cancer Awareness Month is an annual campaign to increase awareness and public knowledge about breast cancer. More than 43,000 women die from breast cancer each year here in the United States of America. Early detection, regular screenings are the most reliable way to detect breast cancer early and treat the disease. I encourage citizens to join in activities that will increase awareness of what can be done to prevent and control breast cancer and pay tribute to those who have lost their lives to this disease. Therefore, I, Mayor Rich Tran, on behalf of the great City Council, do hereby proclaim October of 2022 here as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Milpitas. Okay, next we have Diwali. We're going to have a proclamation here. We do have guests, and we want to invite those guests that are here and that would like to come up and speak and share in the joyous celebration. So I'll read the proclamation. I'll ask those guests to come up and also speak, and we'll do the presentation of the proclamation here with the Vice Mayor and our City Council. Whereas Diwali is celebrated annually by Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, and Jains throughout the United States and across the planet Earth. And whereas there are approximately over 3 million Hindus in the United States alone, nearly 2 million of which are of Indian and South Asian origin. And whereas Diwali, one of the world's oldest religious holidays, brings together families, friends, and communities right here in Milpitas. Special. And also around the globe in goodwill, peace, and a shared sense of renewal. And whereas Diwali is a festival of lights, during which celebrants light small oil lamps, place them around homes, and pray for health, knowledge, and peace. And whereas the shared holiday of Diwali signifies a special time of peace and serenity, with the hope of building bridges of understanding and tearing down barriers of intolerance. And whereas Diwali falls on Monday, October the 24th, let me know where the party's at. This year, in accordance with the lunar calendar, and is celebrated by Hindus as a day of thanksgiving for the homecoming of Lord Rama and the beginning of the new year for many Hindus Now, therefore, I, Rich Tran, Mayor of the City of Milpitas, and on behalf of the great City Council, do hereby proclaim October the 24th of this year in the City of Milpitas, the land of cornfields, as Diwali. And we'll invite our special guest to come up and speak. We do have really the whole city watching here on the live stream. So come on up. Yes.
Hello, everybody. My name is RJ Sudha. I'm a long-time resident of the city, been here for more than 20. I'm a proud resident of Milpitas. I've been here for more than 20 years. No, never looking back. I lived in Santa Clara for a few years, but I can never remember what happened in Santa Clara. But all that I can remember all these years is this city that has given so much to me, my livelihood, my family, and everything else. I wake up. First of all, thank you, City of Milpitas, Mayor Rich Tran, the council members, and my dear Indian community for gathering here and celebrating this proclamation of Diwali. This is indeed a great moment for our community, a sign of bonding and inclusiveness. This is yet another landmark event since the city celebrated her 75th Indian Independence Day, right here in the backyard. The Hindu American Foundation that was founded is America's biggest educational advocacy nonprofit organization, established 19 years back. HAF works with policymakers, educators, and key stakeholders to champion issues of concern to Hindu Americans, including defending civil and human rights and protecting all living beings, inspired by guiding principles and Hindu teachings. HAF promotes dignity, mutual respect, and pluralism. Hindu Americans are celebrating diversity and issuing a proclamation a few weeks back. We sincerely appreciate that you're all acknowledging the biggest festival for us Hindus, Diwali, like other celebrations like Thanksgiving and Christmas and Chinese New Year. It's all about getting together with friends and family, sharing and caring. It's one of the most popular festivals for the Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, and Buddhists all over the world. Diwali symbolizes the spiritual victory of light over darkness, good over evil, and knowledge over ignorance. Diwali commemorates the day the Prince Rama of Ayodhya, his wife Sita, and his brother Lakshman returned after being exiled for 14 years. The prince was considered to be an incarnation. As you all know, Lord Vishnu had 10 different incarnations, and Lord Rama was one of the perfect incarnations of Lord Vishnu. He was one of the incarnations of Lord Vishnu and an embodiment of dharma, which is righteousness, and Sita, an incarnation of Lakshmi, the Hindu goddess of wealth. Diwali is celebrated as a 5-day event in most parts of India, and as Mr. Rich Tran said, it's also the beginning of New Year in Gujarat, a state in India, where people decorate the homes, clean up the homes, and light up the homes with lamps, wearing new clothes, and enjoying high-calorie sweets. However, over the years, the high-calorie sweets have lowered down, and people have because of the luxury that we live in, we've stopped buying new clothes. We keep buying clothes over and over. The number of clothes we buy over the years lessen, and we stopped buying. We started lowering the calories every year, and so it's become a non-fat Diwali and non-fat savories. And with that, I'd like to conclude a small invitation to you all. On Saturday, the 22nd, to my friends, we cordially invite you all with your family, friends, to our home on the 22nd of October. Mark you, it's not 24th of October, it is called Diwali Day, at our home from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the occasion of house cleaning for Diwali. Thank you very much.
And
the home address.
oh no, we won't do that. But come on up. If you're here to celebrate Diwali, everybody come on up. If you're here to celebrate Diwali, we'd like for you to have one big Milpitas family picture. You know how we do it. Okay. Yes. Yes. Yeah, maybe We'll go by height if we can, yeah. Yeah, I'll get in the front. I'll take an, I'll kneel down, yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Are you sure you don't want to be in it? You're looking good. Come on now. You got the, love the outfit. Yeah. Yeah. Make sure you get the proclamation in view, Vice Mayor. Yeah, okay. I have 2 iPhones. All right, we'll carry on with the meeting. We'll carry on with the meeting. Okay, next up on tonight's agenda is the public forum. Those in the audience that are here for an item perhaps not on the agenda tonight, now would be your time. We're doing 2 minutes tonight, 2 minutes for the public forum. Comments for 2 minutes for anybody. You can come speak on anything you want. Come speak on anything you want. But if you're here for a particular agenda item, it would behoove you to wait until we get to that item. This evening, we have some cards here. Let's see here. For the public forum, we have Warren Wettenstein.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, city staff, and my Milpitas community, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Warren Wettenstein, president of the Milpitas Chamber, here to update you with what's going on at the Chamber. Chamber has had many successful events this year, some of which include the craft feed, job fair, business workshops. We've helped small Milpitas businesses get grants. Coming up is the awards banquet this Friday and swearing in of new board members. We have more monthly mixers, including one Thursday, and we do Bay Area joint chamber events with other chambers. The chamber proudly held free elections open to all to accomplish a clean slate board of directors. There were no seniorities, no spaces held open. The new board will be sworn in on Friday, the 21st, October at 5 p.m. You're all welcome to join us at Sonesta Silicon Valley's new banquet hall and enjoy their gourmet cuisine this Friday. Chamber is moving forward with more monthly events for you. Please check the calendar. We are open to more suggestions from our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Inderjit Munja. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for the time, but I think what I need to say has already been said.
Oh, great. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Wanted to go to your card. Thank you. Okay, fantastic. Public forum continues. If you're here to comment, we have Mr. Montemayor.
Voltaire Montemayor, Milpitas. Thank you. Yes, these proclamations are really very important to recognize, to accommodate. It's National Day, Independence Day, Independence Week. It's very memorable for any or every respected nations. The first one that we had also on the presentation is the cancer. It touches us like maybe of the not all the breast cancer that happened to one of my family members, but it's a cancer also of part of the body. So for these two presentations, thank you to the city.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, thank you. All right. Anybody else here in the chamber that'd like to comment? Yes, come on up. All are welcome. Yes.
Hello, Mayor, and hi, Council. I want to take this time. I'm a resident of Milpitas, as well as I'm a county worker. So service-oriented people, we're looking for lots of them. Our county is doing a great job. Our cities are doing a great job. We need the folks with the technical and all types of background. So I wanted to take this time, especially since there is time,
Yes.
to say that come join us. Santa Clara County rocks. So come join us. Thank you.
Okay.
for this time.
great. Yes, yes. Why not? Why not? Okay. All right. Any other comments here for the public forum? If not, we'll move on to the virtual chamber. We have folks joining us in the cloud. This is a hybrid meeting, in person or virtually. And we have Christopher Martin.
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, barely. Yes,
Can you hear me now?
barely. Yes,
How about now?
it's a little better.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Christopher Martin. I'm from Milpitas. My comments tonight are for Vice Mayor Carmen Montano. Milpitas deserves better. You are quoted saying in the Mercury News that FPPC complaints are used as distractions close to elections. No, ma'am. Your mailer is a distraction. And as an FYI, those mailers are also under investigation as FPPC violations. That's 2 open violations. You were also said that once the investigations are completed, you would be vindicated. No, you won't. The investigations against you are not a trivial matter. You falsified documents. It's not really about you accepting inappropriate travel gifts. It's about integrity, trust, doing the right thing. You lied. Not only did you lie, but you lied knowing it was perjury. That's why all the evidence collected about this falsified Form 700 has been turned over to the district attorney because perjury in the state of California is a felony. Milpitas deserves better than a felon for mayor.
All right. Next up, anybody else with the virtual? All right. Moving on to announcements and future agenda items. Go to our city manager, Steve McHarris.
Thank you, Mayor Tran, members of the council. I do not have any announcements for you this evening.
Thank you very much, Steve. We'll bring it back over here to the dais. I want to make an announcement. On Thursday morning, we're having the grand opening of our new City of Milpitas Fire Station 2. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. Woo, boy. I know some firefighters sometimes watch the council meetings, maybe at the fire station, but no, we're excited. And I think folks in the community can come on out. I believe there will be sufficient room for us to safely gather. And we're going to celebrate this big win, which is our fire station and public safety. It looks great. I want to thank all our city staff, truly, 100% for their work on the effort and the matter of public safety through the fire department. And we have arrived, and perhaps our city can continue to work to update our fire stations, which have reached the end of their useful life. I believe Fire Station 2 was constructed in 1969, And so we got a couple other fire stations we need to take care of. And even the police station, but I digress. All right. Any other announcements or future agenda items from my colleagues? We'll go to Councilmember Chua.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. I would like to recommend and ask staff to explore waiving the fee for, as you know, I'm the liaison to the Senior Advisory Commission, and I frequent the senior center. And I've noticed that the gym that has all the machines, they're not that used a lot. And they're being charged like $1.50 just to use the machines. And I think if you really look at it, the number of times I've been there, there's only like 5, maybe last time I was there, maybe 8 seniors that are using it. So it's just like $15 a day or less. So I'd like staff to make a recommendation, report on how we can eliminate or waive the fee, $1.50 per residence for use of the gym. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Chua. I support your proposal. I know that the city manager will connect with you. I know we do have a fee schedule routine that we do every year, but perhaps this is something that we can look at sooner. But fantastic. Okay, any further requests from my colleagues? Let's keep this meeting going. All right, next up we have the Vice Mayor, Carmen Montano.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to make a comment on the previous Chris Martin. In this country of America, everyone is innocent till proven guilty. But it seems like he's trying to politicize this for his own political reasons and probably has other people doing it for him. So I just want to remind everybody, this is America. On another note, I did go to an art walk this last weekend, and it was our first in the city. And it was very, it was the first one, so it could have been more people, but I can see that it's trial and error. But it was great, though. We had a lot of artists out. And then also, on another note, I was called by someone this weekend that they had concerns about a trip that Anthony Fan made to China in 2017.
Let's just really stick to the agenda.
I just want to make
please.
sure that there was no accountability. Thank you. There needs to be accountability.
agenda.
I mean, people are
Let's-
quick to judge me.
Let's stick to the agenda, my friend. Okay, next up is Councilmember Dominguez.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I was looking at our handbook, and one of the things that I was looking at that City of Mountain View did, which I think is really important, is making sure that city council members and mayors in the future have access to paternity and maternity leave. Currently in the handbook, it states that if you miss certain amount of meetings consecutively, you give up your seat. If you know, when you give birth, it takes a couple of weeks to come back to work. And as well as a father, when you're able to be there to support your brand new baby and your partner, significant other, it could be also your partners or significant other who are supporting each other as you form a new family unit. I think it's important for us to just make sure that that's not part, and if that needs to be updated, to please update that in the handbook, because I would hate to see a future council member or a mayor have to feel like they have to be rushed back because those maternity leave policies and paternity leave policies and parental leave policies, I want to be as inclusive as I can, are not stated in the guidebook for council. So I just want to make sure that it's okay, and if not, if we could please bring that back as a council item to give direction to include it.
I'm sorry, is it the leave of absence of the period of 60 days? Is that what I'm hearing?
what I am stating is making sure that there is family leave as a city council. Sometimes the 90 days, it's not the 90 days. It's there is a policy in there that I read that if you miss a certain number of meetings consecutively, you give up your seat. Well, when you have a brand new baby in your home, unfortunately, it may take a couple of weeks to adjust and make sure that your family is taken care of. So I want to make sure that the member is not being removed. You could take a 60 to 90 day personal leave, but that in the guidebook, it says if you miss more than a certain amount of consecutive meetings, you risk your seat. You're giving up your seat.
I think it's 60 days is the time period of missing meetings, but we have Zoom and we have other options for folks that may need it, fortunately. So until we do not have Zoom any further, I think that issue is addressed. Thank you.
I would like to make a follow-up statement to that. Currently, we have access to Zoom because we continue the emergency, I believe, on COVID. But once we do, if that ever goes away, then the member is not protected. So those new parents, if they serve on the council and they have to miss a certain amount of meetings, they would then risk their seat.
What is your proposal of meetings? Well, I think the council can take action in the handbook where the council can vote to excuse the person, whether it's a blessing of a newborn or a grief or any reason. The council has the ability to vote to excuse the elected official. Thank you.
I would kindly disagree with that. And so I would just want to make sure that the folks at home know that that's not true. There is a loophole. And so if the powers of be or the majority has something against that council member, they could vote against it. We don't know because we don't know what the future holds. And as a policymaker, it is my responsibility to update policies that do not bring equity in the home of the people. And so definitely thank you very much, Mayor, for your feedback. I will go ahead and take note. And those of you at home are watching, I want to make sure that you understand how important family leave is, but most importantly, how important it is for us to have policies that are inclusive so everybody could serve and they don't have to pick between their families and showing up to work as a council member or a future mayor. Thank you so much.
Let's check in with our city attorney. What are the labor policies for someone that is an elected official? Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's protect those that may need to have family leave.
And certainly, Mayor Tran, we can look into that, and Councilmember Dominguez, we can look into that and discuss it at a future time when it's agendized. But I think we do have to move on because it's not an agendized item. Well, there's a process for bringing council member.
No, I mean emailed back to us by the next council meeting.
Yeah, email us the current language.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
And also, could you please clarify if city council members and the mayor are employees? We have to define that because I've been told we are not employees. We are not entitled to the same rights as an employee because we have a stipend. We're considered, it's a part-time, non-protected position because the people all are supervisors. So therefore, we're not regular employees. So if you could just please come back with that clarification, I would greatly appreciate it.
I'd be happy to discuss that offline with you.
I would like it in an email, please. So that way it's available in a public records request. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, any further requests from my colleagues? If not, we'll go to the announcement of conflict of interest and campaign contributions. Back to our city attorney, Michael Mutalapasi.
Thank you, Mayor. I ask you, Mayor, and each of the council members whether he or she has any financial or personal conflict of interest related to any of the items on tonight's agenda.
And we'll go down the list here. Council Member Chua.
None.
Councilmember Dominguez.
None.
Councilmember Fan. Get your microphone.
None.
And then Vice Mayor Montano.
None.
Myself is a none.
Let the record reflect there are no reported conflicts. I also asked Mayor Tran and the members of the Milpitas City Council, please disclose any campaign contributions of $100 or more received within the last 12 months from any of the parties entering into contracts with the city on tonight's agenda, or contributions received from the development project applicant for development projects on tonight's agenda.
Councilmember Chua.
None.
Councilmember Dominguez.
None.
Councilmember Fan.
None.
Vice Mayor Montano.
None.
And myself is a none. Thank you. Moving on to the reading of the City Council Code of Conduct. I'll go ahead and read it. Be respectful and courteous, model civility, avoid surprises, praise publicly and criticize privately. Focus on the issue, not the person. Refrain from using electronic devices while on the council dais. Disclose conflicts of interest and affiliations related to agenda items. Separate governing from campaigning. The council speaks with one voice after making policy on issues. Respect the line between policy and administration. Council will hold one another accountable to comply with this code of conduct. That's it. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. I'll go ahead and move to approve the agenda. Need a second.
And
We have a second from Councilmember Chua, and we'll go down the line with the vote to approve the agenda. We have Councilmember Chua,
aye.
Councilmember Dominguez,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano,
Aye.
and myself is an aye. The agenda is approved. Moving on to consent calendar. I'd like to put item number 16 onto the consent calendar. Hearing no objections. 16 onto the consent calendar. That's 16 onto the consent calendar. If I hear no objections, any other requests from my colleagues? We got some pretty good public hearings tonight. Okay, I'll go ahead and move to approve the consent calendar. Moving item number 16 onto the agenda. Need a second. We'll go to the Vice Mayor, Carmen
Second.
Montano.
Second.
We have a second from Vice Mayor Montano. We'll go to the vote here, and it's Councilmember Evelyn Chua,
Aye.
Councilmember Dominguez,
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano. That's an aye from
Aye.
the Vice Mayor, huh? Okay, myself is an aye. The consent calendar is approved. Thank you so much. Moving on here to the public hearings, item number 13. Conduct a public hearing and introduce an ordinance amending sections of Chapter 10, Title 11, which is zoning of the Milpitas Municipal Code related to definitions and regulations for commercial service land uses. We'll go to our planning director, Ned Thomas.
There we go. Good evening, Mayor Tran and members of the council. We're very happy to be with you again tonight with another zoning text amendment. This one is pertaining to commercial service land uses, and we have our senior planner Lillian Van Hoa here to present the staff report, and also our consultant for these various ad hoc zoning text amendments, Holly Pearson. I'll turn the time over to Lillian to present the staff report.
Thank you, Director Thomas. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members, and fellow staff. The purpose of the proposed ordinance is to improve the clarity and specificity of certain commercial land use classifications. The series of amendments to the zoning ordinance focuses on changes to the definitions section and the use tables for residential, commercial, mixed use, and industrial zones. Next slide, please. The proposed ordinance includes the following amendments. We're going to eliminate the overly broad commercial services use category, and the examples listed under this category would be reclassified under new, more appropriate use categories. This would involve the creation of the following definitions. We'd add a new definition for offices, business, and professional, under which businesses such as accounting, architectural, and interior design firms would be listed. A new definition for personal services to include commercial services of a personal or aesthetic nature, such as beauty salons, barbershops, nail salons, tanning salons, and tattoo and body piercing studios. A new classification and definition for repair and cleaning small items to include businesses that provide cleaning and repair services for small consumer and household items like tailor, shoe repair shops, jewelry and watch repair shops, and self-service laundromats. And we would move some business types currently listed under commercial services to business support services, such as mailbox rentals and photocopy shops, and others to retail stores, general merchandise like floral shops and tuxedo rentals. Next slide, please. Other minor changes include adding a definition for a dry cleaning plant, as there is currently no definition provided in the code. The new and revised definitions would be updated in the use tables for residential, commercial, mixed use, and industrial, and the commercial services classification would be deleted from these tables. Staff has also elected to make one minor change to the use regulation of general retail stores in the mixed use MXD and high density mixed use MXD2 zones to allow them as a by right use rather than require a minor conditional use permit. Minor revisions have been made to the residential and mixed use zone special uses sections for consistency with the changes to use classifications. Existing references to commercial services in these sections have been updated. And lastly, changes have also been made to the off-street parking section to make the land uses in the table consistent with the new and amended use classifications. Next slide, please. So the term offices, business, and professional would be added to the general definitions section of the zoning ordinance. The definition would encompass various offices of firms or organizations providing professional management or administrative services. Examples are shown here on the slide and are included in the definition. This classification does not include medical or dental offices, as they have their own definition. Next slide, please. The term personal services would be added to the general definition section of the zoning ordinance. It is defined as a commercial establishment which provides services of a personal or aesthetic nature directly to consumers, including but not limited to beauty salons and barbershops, nail salons, tanning salons, hair removal salons, tattoo studios, and body piercing studios. Next slide, please. The proposed amendment includes updates to the residential, commercial, mixed use, and industrial use tables to ensure clarity and consistency with proposed modifications to the definition section as described. These changes will further distinguish office and business uses from personal services. One needed change is to also allow general retail and personal services as a permitted by right use on the ground floor within the MXD2 zoning district. This will expand the types of businesses allowed in that zone. Existing references to the commercial services have been updated for internal consistency within the zoning ordinance. And lastly, as mentioned earlier, changes have also been made to the off-street parking section to make the land uses in the table consistent with the new and amended use classifications. Next slide, please. The introduction and adoption of this ordinance is not subject to review under the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15061B3, also known as the common sense exemption. When it can be seen with certainty that there is no possibility that the activity in question may have a significant effect on the environment, the activity is not subject to CEQA. Next slide, please. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 14th, 2022 to consider the draft ordinance and receive public comment. No comments were received from the public. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed zoning ordinance amendment as presented by staff. Next slide, please. Staff recommends that the City Council open and close the public hearing, consider the exemption per the California Environmental Quality Act, and move to waive the first reading beyond the title and introduce an ordinance amending sections of Chapter 10 of Title 11 zoning of the Milpitas Municipal Code relating to definitions and regulations for various types of commercial service land uses. That concludes staff's presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Lillian. Excellent presentation as always. And I'll go ahead and move to open up the public hearing. If I hear no objections, the public hearing is now open. Comments tonight are 2 minutes, folks. If you're here for item number 13 and you're here in the chamber, I welcome you to come on up. For item number 13, hear ye, it's a public hearing. Come on up, Mr. Montemayor. I'll get your microphone 1 second there. One moment here. Okay, there you go.
We don't want, like, it is emphasized to have function in the office, personnel or the office. There were 2 divisions. I couldn't memorize both. But anyway, if it's emphasized and somebody will say there's no rule for that, there's no exact detailed one. Now we're doing the detailed one, so we're safe. We're safe on the CAQA regulations also. So go for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Montemayor. Any further comments here in the chamber? If not, we'll go to the Zoom. Any virtual raised hands? Thanks for joining us, folks, on Zoom. We see your name, and I know you see us. We are together. Okay, seeing no virtual raised hands. Seeing no further requests in the chamber. I'll go ahead and move to close the public hearing. If I hear no objections, the public hearing is now closed. And we'll go ahead and bring the comments right up here to the dais. Perhaps I can check in with Lillian or Director Thomas. I'm looking at the AR report. Everything is great. My question is for the AR for this item, which AR stands for Agenda Report. On page 13, under Live Work Unit, I know there's some strikes here, and I know we have some live work units here in Milpitas. They're pretty neat, actually. Not too far from City Hall. Really cool. I know other cities have live work units. I remember being in LA and New York, and live work units were the rage. But I'm just looking at it. We have some strike throughs for like accountant, architects, attorney, computer software professionals, engineers. Are those going to be prohibited? Commercial uses for the live workspaces as we move forward here as the recommendations of the staff?
Holly, do you want to chime in?
Sure.
Oh, Holly, welcome.
Sure. Good evening, council members. Holly Pearson. I'm the consultant who's been working with planning staff on these amendments. So the answer is no, and that's a very good question. I can understand why it would appear that way, but just to clarify, so the underlying language there says offices, business and professional, so that business and professional is added. And the reason for the strike through is because those examples that were sort of separately listed as individual uses would now be encompassed within the definition of offices, business, and professional. So it just didn't seem necessary to list the examples because they're part of the definitions. But no, they would not be prohibited.
Thank you for answering my question fully. That's it. Thank you, Holly. Yeah, I see the red, I see the strike through. I said, oh, I gotta take a moment here. Thank you. No, that's wonderful. And I can see future live workspaces with tech startups and all types of bright ideas coming out of Milpitas. That's pretty cool. All right, that's all the questions I have. I want to give kudos to the Planning Commission for their work on this with our planning department. We'll go to our colleagues here, my colleagues here on the dais, if there's any comments, questions, concerns. Item number 13, we did hold the public hearing. Thank you, folks. Okay, any requests? Okay, I see no requests. We'll go to the city attorney, Mike Umatalapasi here, if he can, or read aloud for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, you have before you an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Milpitas amending sections of Chapter 10 of Title 11 of the Milpitas Municipal Code to modify and add definitions and regulations relating to various types of commercial service land uses, and making findings of CEQA exemption.
Thank you very much. And I'll go ahead and move to waive the first reading and move to approve recommendation 3 for item number 13. And I'll need a second. That's a motion on the floor. Vice Mayor Montano.
Second.
We have a second from the Vice Mayor. All in favor? Let's go to our devices, please. Yes. Thank you to our IS department for allowing for us to have this device. Okay. We had a motion from myself. We have a second from the Vice Mayor. All in favor through the digital vote here. Okay. Perhaps we'll get one more vote in there. There it is. There it is. 5-0. All right. We'll go ahead and call it out. Councilmember Chua is a yes. Councilmember Dominguez is a yes. Councilmember Fan is a yes. Vice Mayor Montano is a yes, and myself is a yes. The motion passes. Thank you very much. Item number 13 is approved. Great job planning. Yes. All right, moving on to public hearing number 2 of tonight, which is agenda item number 14. Let's grant funding from the California Department of Housing and Community Development for the permanent local housing allocation and budget amendments. And we have a couple folks here, our Director of Economic Development, Alex Andrade, as well as our Senior Administrative Analyst, Sarah Bolcha. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor. This is Alex Andrade, Director of Economic Development. This item has been moved to the next City Council meeting on November 1st.
Okay, there it is, as stated. Just wanted to get to you here. All right, folks, you heard it. This item has been moved to November the 11th. And next up is item number, pardon me. All right, just one more time. November the 1st, yeah. First, thank you. Yes, there you heard it, folks. November 1st. Moving on, time number 15 is introduce ordinance number 65. .153, adopting by reference the 2022 California Energy Code, introducing ordinance number 65.154, adopting by reference the 2022 California Green Building Standards Code with amendments, and set a public hearing on December the 6th of 2022 for adoption of the ordinances. And we'll go to our building official, Bill Todd. How you doing, Bill?
Hey, Mayor. Good to see you again. I haven't seen you guys for a while. We have a presentation here tonight to fill you in more on the details of our proposed reach codes. We can pull up the presentation. Hopefully. There we go. Yeah, so good evening again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Well, here we are 3 years later after our initial reach code amendments with our second round, which, as you will see, is more robust and includes this time around all electric requirements for new construction. Next slide. So again, the whole idea concept reach codes is based on SB 100 back in 2018. The then Governor Brown declared that by 2045 we want carbon-free electricity. So in that vein, we're trying to advance safer, healthier, and carbon-free buildings and vehicles. Next slide. So what are reach codes? I think for most of you here today, this may be a refresher, as I'm sure you probably have a good understanding already of what reach codes are, which are amendments actually to state codes that bolster requirements for building electrification and EV charging to accelerate the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, reduce our carbon footprint, and provide healthier buildings. This time around, though, we are introducing all electric requirements for new construction and some qualifying alteration projects, which we'll cover a little bit later. And also EV charging requirements for certain parking upgrades to existing facilities, along with a significant expansion of the EV charging infrastructure across all occupancies. So in doing so, we will be able to address, there's two key climate action plan strategies here that are to reduce the use of methane gas and increase EV readiness and availability. So with those two key climate action plan strategies in mind, that was part of the impetus to get this going. Next slide. So this summary of benefits really is the answer to the question of why we provide reach codes. So as you can see here, combating the greenhouse gas emissions, providing healthier buildings is at the heart of the why. And we do it in a manner that is fiscally sound by adding all electric and EV charging requirements for new construction, where it is significantly less costly to install. Next slide. So here we have, looking at what other agencies previously adopted for reach codes, including Milpitas, and we can see where we were in 2019 and where the proposed reach codes here will take us, which is to the, you see under buildings, the all electric with limited gas usage category. And then also for EV charging, it's more aggressive this time around. And so our charging requirements will be greatly enhanced under the electric vehicles column there. Next slide. So this just reinforces and confirms increased requirements for electrification are in step with general national trends toward electrification and declining fuel gas usage. By adopting all electric requirements for new construction, we can help accelerate this trend and combat greenhouse gases and by doing so. You can see that the timelines are a little bit slow if you really look at it. So by doing reach codes and with the initiatives and state mandates, you'll see those bars creeping more quickly toward the elimination or great reduction of natural gas, which is the kind of salmon colored part of the bar chart there. Next code or next slide. So I've got 4 slides here. The next 4 slides are going to lay out the summaries of the main reach code requirements for all electric and EV charging. You'll notice throughout that we are referencing the green building standards codes here, aka CalGreen. This is for our all electric requirements and not the energy code. We're not referencing that. And why is that? Well, the reason being the proposed all electric reach code requirements are not considered as energy efficiency. requirements. They don't include, for instance, photovoltaics or storage or other such efficiency measures. So for purposes of energy efficiency standards, of course, the CEC, California Energy Commission, will continue to adopt those standards, whereas the Green Building Code, under the res and non-res mandatory measures for planning and design, these can reside there. They're not considered energy efficiency requirements. EV charging, by the way, has been in the Cal Green Code since its inception, essentially for the same reason. They're not considered energy efficiency requirements. Next slide. So here we get into, I think it's a sequence of 4 slides that get to the heart of the electrification and the EV charging. So for instance, here in this first slide, we have the section 104.106 residential mandatory measures, site development. This is in the Green Building Code again. So this is where you find the all newly constructed buildings shall be all electric. And there's qualifying alterations. And by definition, you can see here, that means if you have a replacement or addition of over 50% of the foundation, or where over 50% of existing framing is removed or replaced, it will be considered as an all-electric building. Excuse me. So there are exceptions. The first one is multifamily res buildings that have city council approved entitlements before the effective date of the adopted code may install fuel gas for water heating systems. These exceptions were born out of some of the cost effectiveness studies. And so this exception was brought forward really in large part because of those studies. Exception 2, if applicant establishes there is not an all electric prescriptive pathway under the building energy efficiency standard, the city may grant a modification. One example comes to mind real quick. We had, as you remember, McCandless Lot 1, and they have a public utility easement in the street. And if they would have been required to do more, say, EV charging, it would have been difficult, if not impossible, according to PG&E, because there was no room in the public utility easement anymore in the street. It was already taken up by all the various cables and feeders. Next slide. So again, continuing on, this is non-res mandatory measures. And you can see the exceptions are essentially the same as the other, except here we have under exception 2, non-res buildings containing kitchens that are located in a place of public accommodation. They can apply to the city for a modification to install commercial food heating processing equipment served by fuel gas. Next slide. So getting to our EV charging infrastructure, again, we have residential mandatory measures. So we've gone through the all electric aspects now. Now we're into the EV. And so here we have requirements for new construction to comply with these various planning and design sections. So again, we have exceptions here for where there's no local utility power supply, or the utility is unable to supply adequate power. ADUs are exempted, as are JADUs if they don't have additional parking. Multifamily R2 buildings that have city council approved entitlements before the effective date of the code, and that's an important one. We don't want somebody out there, a developer, getting his entitlements together and then hasn't accounted for reach codes or anything like that. So we've made that exception. Next slide. So here we have the non-res mandatory measures for site development, again with the exceptions. This is to provide enhanced electric vehicle infrastructure with these exceptions. Next slide. So here we're going to delve into, we'll start with the basics of EV charging terminology. Here is, the highlight here is we have now a low power level 2, which is about half of the KVA of a regular power 2. So this is important. Why? Well, it substantially reduces the cost of the infrastructure, or it can. And so below that, we have, you've probably seen these before. We have three aspects to EV charging. You have the speed of the charging, the readiness, meaning is it capable, ready, or is it the station installed? And then how many of the vehicle spaces are required to be EV ready or capable or installed? Next slide. So here's an example in more of a graphic format for, this is the Milpitas proposed for new 1 and 2 family dwellings and townhomes. Here you have a representation of what we have here proposed, which is level 2 EV ready circuit and a level 1 EV ready circuit. Next slide. So looking again at the entirety of all the occupancies, we've included again the 1 and 2 family we just discussed, but here in a table format, you can see all of the various and assorted occupancies and the requirements. So I'm just going to highlight right now the multifamily affordable. So you can see the level 2 EVCS installed is 20%, 80% of the res spaces have to be level 1 ready. Level 1 is that 120 volt, low charge. It's kind of like a trickle charger. It's a lot more cost effective. Also, I'm going to mention now that SVCE has stepped up, and they have provided through this code cycle, which is 3 years, up to $1,000 per unit to cover any additional costs that this may be subject that the developer needs to comply with. So if you have a 60 or 70 or 100 unit building and you get $1,000 per unit, SVCE has stepped up and provided this program to help defray that cost. Next slide. So for existing buildings, we do have a couple of relatively minor requirements. So if you have parking additions, you have to have electrical capacity and EV infrastructure, same as for new construction. This is for 1 and 2 family dwellings. For multifamily, office, hotel, motel, other non-res, if it requires a building permit and it's 10%, then 10% of the total number of new vehicle spaces added or altered will have to have EVCS level 2 ready. EVCS, by the way, is the actual charger. That's the electric vehicle charging station, okay? And then if you have any existing level 1 that's capable, meaning it just has a conduit there, there's no conductors, that has to be upgraded to level 1 ready. So next slide. So this is an interesting thing that just came out because it was codified actually in the California Electric Code Article 625, which allows by code, the use of automatic load management. So you can have up to 4 chargers on one circuit. And this apparatus, this equipment will manage that load for you. Next slide. This obviously helps a lot in reducing the cost because you're not going to have nearly as much infrastructure needed for the electrical. Here's another opportunity for developers to take advantage of PG&E's Rule 29, which is new. So they will pay for and coordinate the design and deployment of service extensions, essentially the feeders and anything else they need to get this distribution done for the EV charging for, this is for, not for single family homes. But anyway, so there's a few things they have to do as a developer. You can see at the bottom here, they have to install qualified EV charging stations, use them for at least 5 years. So they'll pay for everything up to the meter under this Rule 29. So that's another example of how there's a lot of opportunity out there and a lot of plans to help offset the cost of these increased infrastructures that would be required under the code such as this. Next slide. So this is an example, the next 2 slides, of some of the program offerings, especially Silicon Valley Clean Energy and BayREN. You'll see that Silicon Valley launched a program to support EV charging station deployment for local small and medium-sized commercial properties at no cost to the business. There's a multitude of these out there, but Silicon Valley Clean Energy is one of the ones on the forefront that are providing these services and offerings. They'll also, this is what I mentioned before, the last one here, fund the additional construction costs associated with EV reach code requirements for affordable housing. Next slide. So again, continuing on with this theme, you see Future Fit Heat Pump Water Heater Program. This again is Silicon Valley Clean Energy. And below that is Bayrin, and they have a nice financing program with rebates across multifamily property owner, homeowners, and even small businesses. And so they have financing as well. This covers your heat pumps, induction cooktops, insulation, HVAC upgrades, and a whole lot more. And then we have the Inflation Reduction Act, which just, I believe, was ratified. It has millions of dollars for EV charging infrastructure equipment. So this is something that's upcoming as well. Next slide. So we're at the Q&A. This is the end of the presentation. So I really appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you very much, Bill. I really appreciate your work. Let's go to public comment here. Public comment for item number 15. This is actually not a public hearing, but as always, we're doing public comment. Public comment, I'm looking at you, Mr. Montemayor, yes.
What happened? Where'd it go? I lost you.
Get your microphone here. Let me pause you there, Mr. Montemayor, until we get that red light on your microphone. Please stand by, bear with us, and we'll get your microphone on here at the podium, please. Yes.
Yes. Oh, it's okay now.
Yes.
Yeah, in line a little bit of both the electric vehicle and the fossil gas. The transition is really everybody will go for it anyway because of it's true. We got to go for it. Like we may have like me, I believe the gas deposit may run out, and I don't want to go for political comments here. It's still very hard. Like there may be danger at home, so we have to be careful. In other words, before we plug in, all the connections should be good first. But anyway, it's taken by the station already. We go to a safe place. We have a station already established. So my only worry is the transition from the using fossil fuel to EV. So anyway, we'll go for it. We'll be good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes. Next up, 2 minutes tonight. Welcome.
Tom Valori, longtime resident of Milpitas. I've done some things to electrify my home, and I can find no objection with anything that's being proposed, except for the fact that I haven't heard a word being said, and I know it's not for the local community to be necessarily concerned about it, but the grid, how is it going to withstand all this additional demand that potentially is going to be placed on it? We're already hearing about, don't turn on this and don't turn on that at certain times of the day because they're concerned about the grid going down. Putting all this additional demand on that grid without improving the robustness of that grid is going to create havoc, I'm sure, in the future.
Well said. I appreciate you. Anybody else here in the chamber? If not, we'll go to the sky. It's a hybrid meeting, folks. Thanks for tuning in at home or wherever you are. We have a hybrid meeting tonight, and we'll go to our first speaker on the Zoom with the virtual raised hand on Zoom. Lauren Weston, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm the Executive Director of Actera, Action for a Healthy Planet. On behalf of my organization and all the residents we serve, including Milpitas residents, I want to express our strong support for these REACH codes to move forward quickly, requiring all electric new construction for homes and buildings and curtailing the number of exemptions granted. We know that without a doubt, California is in a climate emergency and we must stop throwing gas on these flames. We also know that climate change will more deeply affect low-income individuals, so creating a blanket exemption for affordable housing units could have unintended negative impacts on equity and health. Forcing folks to live in gas-powered units exposes them to higher levels of indoor air pollution. During emergencies, it takes longer to get power back on to gas homes as opposed to electric homes. And just economically speaking, as the price of renewable energy continues to drop and fossil fuels become more expensive, folks living in these units with gas hookups will end up spending more on energy, not less. Electric homes are also cheaper to build. So with smart planning, we can actually increase the development of affordable housing. I urge this council to adopt these REACH codes, that's my cat in the background, and eliminate the blanket exemption for affordable housing units. And with the CEC's build program created by SB 1477, we really have no better time than now. Thank you so much.
What's your cat's name?
Georgie.
Georgie. Hey, Georgie. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. It's a great night here in the city of Milpitas. I love every time I step into this building. And I love every time folks join us. So thank you for joining us, Georgie. Any further virtual raised hands? Okay, seeing none, no further comments in the chamber. I see none. Going once, going twice. Okay, that's it for the public comments. We'll bring the discussion back up here to the dais. I appreciate Mr. Valori's comments. I actually agree so much. There are serious concerns with whether we're going with electric or fossil fuel. But I know this council here in Milpitas, or councils before us, we've actually moved forward items in the years that I've been here that require all electric, high density residential, things of that nature, which I remember. And so this is consistent. I do always think of like the worst case scenario. Like, what if it's negative 10 degrees outside and the power goes out like it did in the state of Texas that one time that Ted Cruz left the state. But, you know, I don't think it's going to get to negative 10 here. It does get, what's the word, frigid. You know, I think I've seen low 30s around these parts. We do sometimes see snow caps on the mountains here, which are beautiful. And so those are my concerns. You know, gas has always been an option for my home, which has a furnace that needs to be replaced. And so when I look at this item for tonight, you know, we're talking very much all new residential and actually non-residential construction. This item actually will have an impact on the construction costs, seeing how a lot of these new construction projects will need probably solar and those added sources of electricity. But I'm here tonight to support this item as recommended by our city staff. There are pros and cons to gas as well. You know, gas pipes do have a useful life as well. And there's danger when our gas pipes aren't in the quality necessary for those pipes to, you know, kind of operate. So those are my comments for tonight. There's a lot of talk on electric vehicles, and for the record, I am a recreational angler, so anytime we can get the oils and the fuels out of our storm drain systems, I think that's another win for our San Francisco Bay, the largest estuary on the western United States. Anytime we can get oils off of our roads and out of our storm drains, so I'm doing this for the salmon. All right, next up, it's Councilmember Chua.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. I like the question from Mr. Valori. That's really a good question that I didn't even think about until you brought it up. So is there a way we can, the agency that we would ask that question is PG&E, correct? Do we know?
Yes, that would be the.
Would it be appropriate to write them a letter asking where do they stand on what's their plan with this influx of electric usage? Just to get a gauge on,
Yeah,
do they even have a plan?
yeah, let's add that to let's make that an amendment, Councilmember Chua. So when we come back on December the 6th, we'll invite PG&E to be a part of the discussion.
That would be great. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And my next question is to Mr. Bill. Bill,
Yes.
great
Hello.
presentation.
Thank you.
As well. And it really ties in with, as you know, I'm one of the board members of Silicon Valley Clean Energy. And
Yes.
we are very active in that organization, you know, the staff and, you know, with Elaine and you and everybody else. And my question is, it's actually slide 19, if you will, please. So my question is, we just created the incentive corner. I just want to make sure, because the incentive corner tells our residents what are the rebates, opportunities, grants in electrifying their homes, and also which relates to water heater, stove, and everything else, appliances in the household. Are these have we updated our incentive corner to reflect these new opportunities for our residents?
Excuse me, but are you referring to our, is it the ADU corner?
No, it's the incentive corner, which shows we link
know
up
that.
to the different agencies. I think Elaine would know.
Okay.
We link up to the different agencies that shows all the different grants, rebates that our residents can avail to help out in the cost of electrifying their homes. Did we update it with the latest one?
Councilmember Chua, Walter Rossman, Deputy City Manager. We can definitely check tomorrow if it's updated, and if not, we can get it done by the end of this week or within a week or so.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because some of these I haven't seen. I haven't been to the incentive corner for a while, but this what Bill presented are new ones. So if we can update our incentive corner, that would be awesome.
And Elaine Marshall just texted me and she told me it is already done.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. And we have a virtual raised hand from Elaine Marshall. We'll get some shine on our Deputy Director. Elaine, perhaps you want to add some comments here. Welcome.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I was just chiming in to answer Councilmember Chua's question, and Walter had already answered it. So we did already have these links to the Future Fit program as well as the Bayran incentives. And then once we have more information on what's available through the Inflation Reduction Act, we'll be sure to update the incentive corner with that.
That's awesome. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Elaine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Okay, next up we have Councilmember Fan.
Thank you. I think that this conversation
is important, because I do believe that the effects of climate change is a huge existential threat to our society as we know it. I think there are a lot of different ways to approach it. Certainly, every step helps, but I do want to be mindful about the impact of policy, especially as it relates to other pressing needs of our community. This particularly would also impact the housing market. It would potentially impact the economy. So I want to make sure that there are measures in place to mitigate that. That said, let's talk about the cost of construction and the cost of electrification. In the presentation, it was mentioned that there would be rebates. Can staff clarify a little bit more on some of these rebates and what it would cover?
Yes, hi, Councilman Fan, this is Bill Todd. So I can get that to you. There's a whole bevy of them, and I don't have it at the ready right now, but there's various and assorted entities that are providing rebates, whether it's manufacturers, say A.O. Smith is a main manufacturer of water heaters, both electric and gas. And so they are launching and have launched programs for the trades to get up to speed with installing, and then also providing reduced training fees and also rebates to the end users. So there's quite a few of them, and I could certainly get that information together for you. I'd be glad to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be helpful to know, what financial impact we'd be walking into, and if it's completely covered.
Yeah, so I guess the focus would be for this is existing where you're going to change out. So of course our codes tonight we're talking about are for new construction, but there are a lot of other programs out there, rebates, particularly if you're going to change out. For instance, Mayor mentioned his furnace, and if you were thinking of going to a heat pump type of furnace, which is electric, then and oh, by the way, so the energy code coming up has those requirements now. Like if for instance that furnace is going to be changed out to a gas, you have to provide electric infrastructure for future electrical appliance input. So it's, we have two different things we're looking at here. One is rebates for swapping out, say, that furnace to a heat pump type of unit. And so those are the focuses of those kinds of programs, as opposed to what for new construction, SVCE and Bayron are doing, providing programs that reduce the initial upfront cost, I guess I'll call it, of these additional infrastructures. Although, having said that, looking at, California has 16 climate zones, and they vary dramatically as far as the requirements, say for insulation. Here it's R30 in your attic. You go to the Central Valley, it's R30, R38. Here it's R30. So as a small example, so each different climate zone has its own peculiarities. And so in climate zone 4 we're in, across the board, all electric for new was cost effective. And I can refer you back to the AR. In there, there's 4 links to low rise, high rise, single family home, and non-res. If you want to look, they're pretty dense cost effectiveness studies. So I wouldn't recommend it unless you want to go to sleep early, because it'll put you right to sleep. But anyway, I can certainly find that information for you and buttress the argument that in where we are, it's cost effective for these recent studies, in addition to information on rebates for existing changeouts.
Sure. I guess, you know, if this isn't going to be applied to existing buildings.
Right. Yeah, this is for new.
Sure. What are we doing anything to mitigate that cost then? If we're not gonna, you know, be offering incentives?
Well, there are for new, like the last two slides in the presentation listed, I think 4 or 5 of them, plus you know, the conversation about the EV charging I was talking about for affordable housing, where SVC has stepped up with a program to provide up to $1,000 per unit of cost over what it would be otherwise without each code.
For EV?
So, yes, for EV.
Yeah,
and,
but there's a certain inequity there though, because the people who can afford EVs typically wouldn't be living or qualify for affordable housing. The average cost of an EV is very high, and until we can lower that, it doesn't quite make sense to you know, really advertise a rebate that wouldn't really be used in the first place.
yeah, well, there's statistics and not so much studies, but actually hard facts about how the affordability has gotten a lot better. And again, referencing back the presentation, we talked about the 40+ lifespan of a building, which is typical. So getting ahead of it, again, with the goal in mind of reducing the carbon footprint, greenhouse gas emissions, et cetera. So
I mean,
maybe not
sure.
initially it would be used, but over time, and not that much time, because the trend is definitely upwards for people. But you know, in this area, as you know, we all know, you know, if you think of low income people, you look at what is that tier, how much are they making, and frankly, it's enough. And there's other incentive programs too. In fact, state of California has them for purchasing vehicles. For you have to qualify with your income level. So state of California has programs for that to help people of low or moderate income to buy these electric vehicles as well.
I'm not convinced that that's actually the case. I'm sure that there are programs available, but to the extent that lower income people are actually purchasing new EVs, that's something that would be news to me, especially considering the spike in the EV market, especially given today's shortage of semi chips, the technology that is used in EVs. So to say that, you know, EVs as a whole is getting more affordable, I'm not sure if that's applicable in today's current market. And that's something that we have to take into mind, the shifting of the market and how this new technology is changing by the minute, and its reliance on global economic conditions. At the end of the day, I think that it does benefit us to address the carbon emissions coming from transportation costs. So incentivizing EVs, creating the infrastructure for that, I'm all for that. but integrating that into the building process, its impact on housing, how equitable it is for low-income communities. These are factors that I would, want to see addressed.
Okay, I can provide you information and programs and things like that that show you or can provide examples how, and they're not new, these are refurbished or used cars. The one that I'm thinking of, the state has this program, but also to in the spirit of trying to be equal with people. If you think of it's not discrimination so much as maybe we all have preconceived notions, and so maybe those notions can turn a corner, and we can realize through these trends that are there that we can look at this differently. But it takes time. It's not something it's a trend. It's happening over time. But I'd be glad to share with you any and all information I can to help you understand the whole picture as far as the why are we providing all of this infrastructure, or trying to for across the board for all occupancies, including affordable housing. So I'd be glad to do that.
Yeah, no, that'd be helpful. And housing affordability is dependent on the stock of housing on the market as well. So the impact that it would have on the supply as a whole, that's something that can't be really mitigated with an exemption or an incentive solely for affordable housing. I think that I'm supportive of efforts to incentivize, to give options, to work towards that end of electrification. The codes that you referred to earlier, building into the infrastructure so that folks have the option of going all electric. I think that that is good, but as a mandate, I'm not fully convinced yet. So I would like to hear more on that perhaps when this comes back. Earlier,
sure.
Yeah, thank you. Earlier it was mentioned the effect on our existing capacity, our power grid. I too have concerns about that. How well are we going to be able to keep up?
Yeah, and just kind of go back to the future, so-called. So back in 2019 and again this year, PG&E stepped up with. They gave us a letter direct to, I believe, city manager. That was an attachment on the previous 2019 AR, I believe. But anyway, so PG&E is fully behind it. In fact, they're one of the stakeholders that has come forward to say they would like to see more reach codes. They would like to see more electrification because, frankly, their gas infrastructure is needs a lot of work because it's old, and they would rather pivot away from that and go more electric. Plus, they have this huge program to underground a lot of the transmission lines out there that are wreaking havoc on poor folks in the fired areas. Polly, I believe her name is, the new CEO. You see her in ads on television all the time. She's out there telling people this is happening, and we have this huge plan to underground and also increase capacity in their grid. And So
I
I
mean,
not, I don't work for PG&E, but we certainly will have them next time around, and you can hear from them directly.
I mean, I'm not sure if that will do much for me. I understand why PG&E would be vested in it, considering that 50% of the electricity as an energy source comes from natural gas resources. So when we move towards all electricity, are we actually moving towards something greener if 50% of it is maintained by gas?
Yeah, well,
So
that's
Councilmember Fan, this is Elaine Marshall. I do want to remind you that Milpitas is a member of Silicon Valley Clean Energy, and that 96% of our customers are signed up for carbon-free electricity. And so that's part of the impetus for wanting to switch to carbon-free electricity from natural gas.
Sure. But then, I can certainly see Silicon Valley Clean Energy's, financial interest in this, with the increase in the use of electricity as well. At the end of the day, it's not really, my role to say. I think that's fair game. But I just want to make sure that when these interests advocate for all electrification, and when they come up with rebates, that the rebates actually cover and offset all of the impact that it has to the rest of the system, to housing, to the economy. Is that going to cover labor costs, or is that only going to cover the cost of the actual system, the replacement?
Thank you very much, Councilmember. Thank you very much, Councilmember Fan, for your theoretical questions. I don't think our city staff is in a position to answer these macro questions.
I understand, but
I appreciate
this is coming back.
We do have a virtual raised hand. Would you allow for another person to speak?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Very considerate. We have a virtual raised hand from Farhad Faramand. We want to include you. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, council members. Thank you so much for addressing this very important topic tonight. My name is Farhad. I'm with TRC. We're a construction engineering firm. I'm here alongside Mr. Tony Yulo with Silicon Valley Clean Energy. We're here to support any technical questions that are associated with this, support Bill and city staff as well. I want to kind of recognize council member Fan's very important questions. All of these concerns are founded in real concerns, and there are problems that we need to address, and that we cannot address quickly enough. I want to talk about two things, if I may. I'll try to be as quick as I can. One is the grid capacity concerns. I want to point to the fact that our grid capacity concerns, the way we may experience brownouts, these may be during summer periods, during the peak cooling periods, right? And these are typically during when there's a huge heat wave happening across the Western US, not necessarily during heating periods where we're electrifying what used to be heated by gas. So those are two separate periods that are happening based on projections from the California Energy Commission via Assembly Bill 3232. The heating peak period in the Bay Area and within PG&E territory will rise to that of the cooling peak period. So our grid that is sized for a cooling peak will be supportive of a providing our heating peak as well during the winter. Now, that doesn't address electric vehicles. However, electric vehicles can be timed to charge off-peak periods, right? So these are flexible loads for the most part. So if we can charge them at night, or if we can charge them during when we're not having these intense cooling periods, then we can maximize the utility of our existing grid and our grid hardening. I do want to point out that vehicle electrification as well as building electrification has been studied at the state level, and not just by the local community choice aggregators. And it is determined to be the lowest cost, lowest risk approach to decarbonizing our infrastructure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I would like to see if any other of my colleagues would like to comment. But this is only the beginning. We are going to set a public hearing on the 6th of December. And I think that would be a much more engaged discussion, seeing how it is a public hearing that we're going to set. And public hearings are a prime time for discussion. And perhaps me sitting here listening, I'm going to take the time to digest the comments and to carry that over to the December meeting. Certainly an issue that is important. And I thank my colleagues for recognizing the importance of it. And let's continue to do so on December the 6th. Let's go to the Vice Mayor, Carmen Montano.
Thank you, Mayor. So we all know that the overarching goal of these REACH codes is to reduce our carbon footprint. I do like your presentation, Bill, and I do like the fact that you also address the incentives for automobiles. I mean, that is a big one. What I do, that clean vehicle rebate program, and you know what, I don't think a lot of people know about that. So how do we inform the public of these rebates? Is that part of that, the incentive corner, was it called, Councilmember Chua?
Yes, I'm sorry. Elaine?
Yes, we can add more information on vehicle rebates to the incentive corner and continue to publicize that.
Yeah, because that's that's the biggest culprit, is the automobiles out in the street. So I think that's really important that we address, that we let people know. And you have rebates for automobiles, but we should go further and have rebates for people, incentives for people to take the buses, the mass transit. I've always felt that we should, if we're really serious about reducing our carbon footprint, we should start giving people incentives to take mass transit. So just a food for thought. Yeah, thank you very much for this presentation, and we're moving forward because the bottom line is we're trying to reduce our carbon footprint. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Councilmember Dominguez.
Thank you so much. I just want to echo the sentiments of Councilmember Fan, and I am coming from a personal experience. So many of you know my parents' vehicle finally gave out, and so they are using my vehicle. And these incentives are not as easy as people think. There is a lot of qualifications, and in fact, the program's closed. Not only is the program closed, the wait list is closed. So I think it's important for us to maybe just build a pathway where it's going to be reliable and reachable. That's the only thing. I don't want to move in. I definitely support what the staff is doing. I definitely support that we want to make sure that we reduce our footprint. But I don't want to get into a situation where we're at with the last mile, where we're planning all this, but it's not getting planned at the same time as accessibility and how reliable it's going to be. And then we end up with a gap of service. And so I just want to be very careful on how we promote these programs, because one, our income average in Milpitas would not qualify for these programs. And then we just need to make sure that, again, I just want a reliable pathway. And as someone that's hearing this and someone that's experiencing it, and someone that does not make, that does fall into that middle income, I just know it's incredibly more frustrating to go through, and I just don't want our community to go through that frustration. So as staff is moving and building this path to come back, just if you could just please look into the programs, make sure that they're available, but they're not closed, And then, as we move through this, again, I want to make sure that we just do a reliable pathway that is going to be sufficient enough for everyone to get there, and that it's going to really accommodate the goal, which at this point, I think we can do it. But again, I just don't want us to keep relying on these programs that unfortunately may not be available. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think I've heard from all my colleagues. We took public comment, and let's go ahead and move to set this public hearing after we listen here to our city attorney, Michael Mutalapasi.
So thank you, Mayor. You guys have two ordinances to consider tonight. If it pleases the council, I'll go ahead and read both of them. It's Ordinance 65.153, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Milpitas amending Chapter 11 of Title II of the Milpitas Municipal Code, adopting by reference the 2019 California Energy Code. There's also Ordinance 65.149. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Milpitas amending Chapter 19 of Title II of the Milpitas Municipal Code, adopting by reference the 2022 California Green Building Standards Code with amendments. The recommendation from staff, just for clarification, was to set a public hearing on both of these for and set them for second reading for December 6, 2022, with the suggestion from Councilmember Chua to invite PG&E.
Excellent. I'll move to set a public hearing on December the 6th, 2022, pursuant to California Government Code Section 50022.3 for adoption of the ordinances. Thank you to our city attorney for reading aloud.
Just to clarify, Mayor, does that motion include waiver of further reading of the ordinances?
Yes. Thank you. No, thank you. No, I appreciate you. Need a second. We have a second from Councilmember Chua. Let's go to our devices once again. Someone play the Jeopardy music here in the chamber. No. Wishful thinking. Yeah. Okay, there you have it. With a vote received, let's see the outcome. And it's 5-0 unanimous decision. I'll go ahead and read it. Councilmember Chua, yes. Councilmember Dominguez, yes. Councilmember Fan, yes. Vice Mayor Montano, yes. Myself, yes. The motion is carried. The public hearing is set for December the 6th. I thank you very much. Thank you. All right, that's it. This meeting is adjourned.